This is the Old Musician's Blog, number 48. It's another Wednesday, and I'm on my way to the bakery. And here I am sitting outside for a few minutes before going in and getting set up at the piano. And I'm still having some little reverberations from last week's experience, which was we had some of the singers. We had three singers, and because they hadn't been there for so long, I bowed to the first singer because I hadn't told her that she should only do one song, and she came up with a second song, and then the second singer wanted to sing two songs too, so they all had to sing two songs, and then there was a third singer that Merrill liked, and he wanted her to sing two songs. And while this was going on, I got a lot of blowback from Clem, the bass player, because he doesn't like backing up the singers, for one, and the other thing is he can't hear well, so he, it was like Merrill only wants us to do one song, for the singers, and he'd be fighting me, while I was trying to negotiate these situations, and he couldn't hear what was going on in the background. He kept saying, "There's a lot of good musicians in the house now, and we ought to call them up." And it was like, there's a drummer over there, and the drummer had already been asked if he wanted to play, and he didn't want to play. So, it was kind of like Clem can't hear, so he doesn't know what's going on a lot of the time. But he still kind of has an attitude. And then after I got home, Merrill, who's the owner, he called me up and he wanted to talk it all over, and so we talked and we talked and we talked, and it was okay. It's not like we're not on the same page, more or less, about what's supposed to be happening there, and I think that it'll everything kind of goes okay into the future. But the fact of it is that when you have too many rules around stuff about what you can do and what you can't do, and everybody has an attitude about it, it gets to be kind of hard to have fun, because you're constantly worried about this and that and the other thing, and so this morning I'm having a little bit of I'm still some of that stuff is still replaying over in my mind, and that's the thing about music. Often especially when things don't go right, and sometimes when things do go right, but especially when they don't go right, you have this, I have this thing where it replays over and over in my mind, and is kind of it's kind of distressing because it's in the past and you can't do anything about it, and it's kind of depressing, and you kind of end up thinking, well, do I want to do this at all? Either that, or you go home and you practice like anything the pieces that you couldn't do too well, so that maybe the next time when you encounter them you'll do them better. But most of this it doesn't have anything much to do with the music. It's more having to do with the politics and the negotiation of a jam situation, and maybe over time it'll move away from being a jam situation, but at the moment that's kind of what the Wednesdays have always been. And so that's what I deal with in order to have a place where I can play the piano and get to play with a lot of really good musicians that have come in over time, that they occasionally I'll get a call to play the piano, but for the most part I've gotten to the point where if I come up with a gig, I can make the call to these other good musicians, and they'll take me seriously now because they've they've played with me at the jam, and they know that I can deliver at least to the point where I'm taking the responsibility for the gig, and that's a good thing. It's another level when the really good players want to call you, because they have a lot of choices, of course, and a lot of the time they have a lot of gigs and they want to show themselves off well, so they choose the best players. And I don't pretend to be able to compete with the best players on a competition level, but it's all part of the game of playing music, and how the unwritten rules of musicianship play themselves out, and such things as whoever gets the gig gets to choose the personnel, and call the shots and name the band. Once you're committed, stay committed. Show up on time. Don't give and support the band leader in their endeavor to make the gig a good thing. Don't undermine their negotiations by trying to negotiate for yourself behind their back. These things, some of which are obvious and kind of psychological conversations, that you would have in any kind of relationship, and that's one of the good things about the music, is that it works out a lot of these relationships. And some of them are, peculiar to the music scene, though probably could be paralleled to other situations as well. So now I'll go in and face the music.